So a little bit ago we did a Q&A, and we have now crossed 5,000 subscribers, which is thanks to you, and I really appreciate it. And we have our new subreddit up over at reddit.com. The subreddit is r/DegenerateJ. I will include a link in the description. So we are growing at an exponential rate, and thank you so much for that. I really do appreciate it. That is thanks to you showing up and actually watching the videos, commenting, liking, sharing. That helps me out so much. So I did want to go back and continue the Q&A we had. I feel like I didn't get to answer a lot of questions, and I won't be able to get through all of them ever anytime we have a Q&A, but I can at least try to hit a broad range of questions. And this is a continuation of that. So I'm thinking that we will do another one of these soonish. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I don't want it to get annoying and overdo them, so I was thinking maybe we could do them at milestones. Maybe when we hit 6,500-ish subscribers, I can do another one of these. They're also a nice break for me from normal content. They give me a little variety. So the first question we have here is from Mr. Vernant. I'm sorry, I can't read. The Q&A is, I'm obsessed with Deathstroke. Good taste. In Arkham games and comics, Arrow TV show is cool too, but he isn't as powerful as the other versions. What do you think of this character? Is he overpowered, underpowered? He's my favorite villain of all time. Do you like this character? I mean, who doesn't like Deathstroke? Let's be honest here. Deathstroke is awesome. Slade Wilson is pretty incredible. Now, as far as the versions go of him, there's different ones I like more than others. I do like the Arkham one a lot, at least in Origins. I think he was underused, which was really too bad. And the same thing happened with him in Knight. I love the version of Deathstroke of Slade from the Teen Titans cartoon series. I think that's one of the best places I've seen him done in terms of just being a pure villain. But the New 52 and Rebirth definitely got him right as well, I think. When it comes to like actual cartoons, he's a bit hit or miss for me. I think the concept of the character and who he is are really cool, but I think that other than the Teen Titans show, he's been pretty vastly underused in a lot of continuities for some reason. Maybe we'll see that change in the future. I hope. I really hope. The next question is from Adam X78, the dude who always says hi to me in every video, and I do appreciate it and notice you. His QA is Alfred Bane? Well, I'm going to say we have never seen Alfred and Bane in the same room before, have we? It's implied in Arkham Origins, but as soon as you show up, Bane's gone. I'm thinking you might have stumbled onto something here, a little fan theory. You should probably head over to the Rick and Morty subreddit and share that one, I'm thinking, because honestly, my IQ here is not quite high enough to dispute this fan theory. Our next question is from Atisam Khan. I'm hoping I didn't butcher your name. Do you think they should build a new DCEU from the new Batman movie? Also, I love the vids. Great work. Thank you. I actually really appreciate that, and I needed to include the compliment in there, so if anyone ever says I didn't amount to anything and nobody liked me, I can point back to this compliment and say, I don't think so. Do I think they should build a new DCEU? I do. I think some people are going to be a little upset about that sentiment, but I think the current DCEU, there's a lot of pieces to it I really like. I think Man of Steel is actually a very good movie. I think BVS, the Ultimate Edition, is good. I'm not saying it's great. It's not a masterpiece, but I think it's enjoyable. Could it have been better? Yeah, sure, but they really forced Zack Snyder to sort of build a universe in 2 movies. That's impossible, really, to do, and to set up a whole franchise off it. So they really put an unnecessary burden on the guy, and I think it's really kind of stupid that we won't be able to see what his actual vision was because of it. As far as the new Batman movie, The Batman with Robert Pattinson, I think it has a lot of promise. I think it very well could be one of the more comic accurate depictions of Batman, at least from what we're seeing from behind the scenes. But I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. I think that it would be a good idea to start sort of building these other continuities. You saw it in Joker, where it's just a totally different world. And I think that helps these movies a little bit. It helps differentiate them from Marvel, and it also helps to essentially divorce them from some of the I don't know how to say it, worse aspects of the original DCEU, like the Suicide Squad. I don't really think much needs to be tied to that movie. So I think sort of moving this over to a new continuity where you don't have to worry about that is a good thing. What I hope is that they're not throwing out the baby with the bathwater in terms of things like Wonder Woman and Shazam, even Aquaman that were done very well, people liked them. I don't think those should just get chucked out just because they had some hiccups along the way with other characters. So I hope that answers your question. We have a question here from Cannibal, Iowa. Not a place that I would like to live. The question is, if someone had to take up the mantle as a new Batman in the Arkhamverse, who would you choose and why? This is a question I saw from a couple of people. There were different ones. And I'm going to sort of roll it into this other question from Ferris. Would you like a Batman game set in the future? If so, would you like to see Damian Wayne or Terry McGinnis, Batman Beyond? There's a reason I'm combining both of these questions. It's because one question asks a question, the other is actually answering with my answer to that question. If someone had to take up the mantle, I think that I don't really know if there's anybody that really fully fits other than maybe Azrael, depending on your decisions. I think he could work. Dick Grayson does not seem interested in becoming Batman at all. You can argue in the comics he wasn't either, but it just seems even less so here. And we don't really have a lot of a connection to this Arkham Grayson because we don't see him enough. I mean, he doesn't even talk in Arkham City. So, like, we really don't get any sort of characterization of the guy until Night. And to sort of push that now as him taking up the mantle, I guess I just don't think it would work very well. You'd have to be really creative in writing it. And I don't see that happening because you'd basically have to be you'd have to be a Houdini with the script. So maybe they could do that, I don't know. But I really do think that if you jumped ahead, you sort of put in Batman's son, either Damian or Terry, I think that could work. I think either one you're going to have issues explaining because these characters don't show up at all. And I think one of the biggest problems with Arkham Knight was that the villain is essentially, he has to be built up, explained, given a backstory, all of this in just one game. And you're expected to think that it really matters and really ties into previous games, even though it was never really brought up. And I think this is sort of the issue they would have if they were moving forward with a game of anyone taking up that mantle. I think it could be done. I just think you'd have to do some creative and clever writing to work around a bit of a corner they've written themselves into, and I'm not sure how you'd do it. That's also why I thought that this new Arkham game being a sequel to Night would be harder to make than a sequel to Origins. That's why part of me still hopes that it might just be a sequel to Origins, because I just think it's less easy to mess up a sequel to Origins, right? They know what they did right in Origins, they know what they did wrong. And you could say the same of Night, but because of where the story ends off, I'm not sure how you pick that up on a new note without it either feeling repetitive, cheap, or silly. I'm sure there's a way, and there's plenty of good writers working at WB, so it might still be a Night sequel, and they might blow me out of the water and surprise me, but I don't know. Our next question is from ArkhamFan42, who said, what is your favorite version of Batman besides Prime Earth? My personal favorites are Batman Beyond and The Batman Who Laughs. Well, those are two of my favorites. I think for me to actually go to a favorite version of Batman Beyond Prime Earth is really hard. It might be a bit of a controversial choice. And that might be the Millerverse Batman. I'd have to look up the Earth designation again. It's like 31 or 34. I don't really remember which, but the Frank Miller version of Batman. So we had Year One, All-Star Batman and Robin. I'm not saying that's a good story. I'm saying it's included in that version of Batman. Then we have The Dark Knight Returns, Strikes Again, Master Race. Obviously, somewhere in there is Batman Spawn. He just sort of goes a unique direction with the character and the characterization of every DC character that he comes in contact with. I'm not saying it's always good. I'm saying it's unique. And I appreciate that a lot. And I really like the progression of that Batman from like a sort of a coward trying to build a myth into a total jerk. and then into a soldier, training other soldiers up, eventually quitting because of his mistakes and coming back. I just think there's a lot of versatility to that Miller version of Batman. If we're looking at a Batman who's not just Bruce Wayne, though, because that still is Bruce Wayne, I would say that it might be one of the ones you listed, or Batman the Red Death. I think there's a lot of really interesting stuff with Red Death, where he's essentially Barry and Bruce melded into one. There's a lot of confusion, a lot of morbidness to it, and it's very fascinating to me. And also this idea of Batman with the Speed Force and what he'd be capable of is pretty insane. Now we have a question from Zlen Omega. Do you believe in Harvey Dent? And my answer to that is, I do. Because I believe that if we stand with Harvey Dent, all of us together, we can help take a dent out of crime. The next question is from Jay Azathoth, who I swear is not me. He just has the same J name. It's not me posting this. Which non-superhero franchise or property would you like to see WB Montreal or Rocksteady make a game series about in the gameplay style of Arkham? Personally, a Tekken game would be cool, or a Warhammer 40k game, in my opinion. So as far as a non-superhero, obviously the superhero one, the first one I would say is, this is answering a different question, but the first superhero one I'd say is like the Flash or Superman. I just think you'd have to be very careful with them. As far as non-superhero franchises, I definitely think, I don't know if Tekken necessarily would be, I mean, nothing's necessary, I guess. I don't know if I would love a Tekken one. I think Warhammer 40k has such great lore that that could be super interesting. It's hard to pick in terms of a non-superhero game, because that's a lot of what would fit that style. I do wonder a little bit if it's a weird idea, but essentially, I don't know if anyone remembers Fable. I always love the old Fable games. I think they are fantastic RPGs, the first two of them. And I sort of wonder if the combat was more like Arkham, if they would be a lot better. I think the combat is just okay in them. It's more the world and the characters that are interesting, along with choice making. So I think that would be really cool to see. A lot of my favorite games, this wouldn't fit. I mean, like, you couldn't do a Fallout game with this, and that's definitely my favorite series outside of Arkham. So I'm not sure other than that. I think your Warhammer idea might be the best one I've heard for a non-superhero game. Jared's Pops said, I just wanted to say thank you for being a good YouTuber, and I needed to include this because it makes me feel good, and I needed the morale boost today. So thank you, Jared's Pops, for being an awesome poster, an awesome viewer. I appreciate you. Our next question is from Jordan Cutler. QA, do you have a crush in the Batman universe? Personally, I have a hard time deciding between Catwoman or Talia al Ghul from Arkham City. And then I think that's the drooling emoji, or it's the smiling emoji. It's hard to tell on YouTube. Where United Thrive responded, I remember those days. And listen, here's what I have to say. I'm in my 20s. Those days are still going on, okay? Do not judge me and my waifus, all right? It can be a waifu even if she's not an anime, all right? So my answer here, definitely Catwoman. First off, meow, wow. The second one I'd have to go with is Harley. I think it says a lot about me because I've dated a lot of crazy, insane girls, and it's never worked out. So I think Harley Quinn would fit right in there. I'd look at her, I'd be like, wow, she is smoking hot, and I would definitely want to date her, and then it wouldn't work out, and I could chalk it up and cash in emo points and retreat to my cave. So it would work out well with the pattern I've established. Next, we have a question from Claude Building Productions. What is your favorite version of the Joker? Mine would have to be Mark Hamill, but I do love Heath Ledger. So I'm assuming that you're meaning a version like a we can see and hear him version, not a book version. So that's what I'm going to go with. I think Heath Ledger is incredible. I think it's really a shame that he passed. Obviously not just because of this, because it's obviously a man's life, and that's way more important. But I would have loved to see him in that role longer. And I think it's a real shame sort of what that did to him. But he was such a brilliant actor in terms of a live action Joker. In terms of live action, I really like Joaquin Phoenix just as much. I don't think you can really compare them in terms of which is better. They're completely different. But I would have to say I enjoyed both of them in that role just as much as the other one. In terms of a actual cartoon, obviously Mark Hamill is amazing, but I also love the cartoon version of Joker from the Dark Knight Returns cartoon. I think he was pretty incredible, really brutal, and he was just very interesting. There was also this love dynamic between him and Batman, a lot of sexual innuendos between the two that I think they weren't stupid and out of place. I think it's very easy to do something like that and think you're being deep. So, like, you can very easily write a sort of love connection between two characters, a hero and a villain, whether they're both men or women, or one's a man and one's a woman. It doesn't really matter. You can do that and think you're being deep, and it can just be absolutely stupid. But they were essentially able to do it in a really interesting way with a lot of double entendres that made a lot of sense. Sort of this idea, too, of like Batman just cutting loose and losing control, and Joker just totally going for it. I thought that was really interesting. I also like this idea, it probably has been since the Dark Knight Returns comic book off and on, of Joker just not really caring about women or even love or any of that. He really just cares about Batman, and he has this obsession with him. And I think that version of Joker really encapsulates that sort of archetype of a villain between a hero and a villain, like that relationship. I think that's really captured in that version of Joker. The next question is from Jade Sector, and the question is, why does my right arm hurt? Listen, I'm not legally allowed to give you medical advice. The United States is pretty darn strict about that, but what I can say, in my opinion, is that doesn't sound like it matches the left arm hurting symptoms of a heart attack, but I don't know. I would say you should seek out medical attention immediately. Other than that, maybe you picked a fight with Batman. Maybe you're that guy in the actual cage in lockup in GCPD that he broke his arm. Maybe you should be a better person, Jade. Maybe you should think about that. So, that is going to be the Q&A for this time. Like I said, I'm hoping at around 6,500 we can do another one of these. I don't want it to get annoying. You'll have to just tell me if I'm overdoing it or underdoing it, or you want to hear more or less. I'm interested in what you have to say. And I would like to hear your comments down below. How do you think this Q&A went? Did you like my answers? What other types of questions would you like to see in the future? I love the Batman questions. I would definitely welcome more non-Batman questions next time we do one of these, because I think we ask a lot of the same questions, I've noticed, myself included. So, let me know what you're thinking in the comments down below. Oh, but wait, before you go, there's two more things. What other content would you like to see from the channel? I'm definitely still going to cover Batman. I'm thinking about moving the 5 things that did right and wrong over to other superhero games as well. I was looking at covering the Infamous games, for one. I was also looking at Spider-Man PS4 and just some other stuff like that. I'm wondering if you'd watch it, though, because I really don't want to shoot myself in the foot, essentially, with content. I still want to have like a bit of a variety here so that we can all kind of be entertained in different ways. And I think that if we just beat Batman to death every day, it might be overdoing it a little bit. But I want to focus on that and essentially also put out other things. So that's why I'm asking for your help a little bit in understanding what sort of content you want to see in terms of variety or things you want to see that are the same, so that we can all be on the same page. So let me know. And hey, check out the Reddit r/DegenerateJ. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day. You are all fantastic, and I love you very much.